Good afternoon, members. I think it's going to be a short meeting today, but I usually get it wrong. So we'll wait and see what your opinion of what's before us today. As you know, I'm Councillor Jim McKenna. I will be chairing today's meeting. Could I remind everyone that today's meeting is being live streamed on the City Council website so that the public can observe the meeting without needing to be present. City Plans panel deal with applications from the city centre as well as the largest and most significant application the council receives. The aim of the panel is to hear all relevant information from applicants, members of the public and council officers to help members of the panel make their decisions. Could I now invite members and officers to introduce themselves and mute your microphone once you have done so. If I could start on my left with Daljit.
Good afternoon, members. I'm Daljit Singh. I lead the City Centre planning team.
Hi, my name is John Hall. I'm a principal planner in the City Centre team.
Good afternoon. I'm Lisa Brannan, principal engineer, highways.
Hello, everybody. I'm Katie Dye, councillor for Killingbeck and Seacroft.
Good afternoon, I'm Emma Flint, councillor in Wheatwood, subbing for Councillor Brooks, and also want to give apologies from Councillor Carlisle, who's not well today. Thanks.
Hello everyone, Councillor Annie Maloney, Beeston and Holbeck Ward.
Hello and good afternoon, Councillor Asghar Khan from Bermondsey and Richmond Hill Ward.
Good afternoon, Councillor Caroline Gruen from Bramley and Stanningley Ward.
Afternoon, everyone. Councillor Colin Campbell.
Good afternoon, Councillor David Blackburn, Farnley and Wortley Ward.
Good afternoon, everyone. Councillor Trish Smith, Pudgey Ward, and I'm subbing for Councillor Dan Cohen.
Good afternoon, Councillor Barry Anderson, Adlin Wharfdale Ward.
Good afternoon, Stephen Wally, Design Advisor.
Good afternoon, Andy Booth, Clerk to the panel.
Good afternoon, Amy Davis, Legal Officer.
Good afternoon, David Feeney, Chief Planning Officer for Leeds.
Thank you for that. Can I move on to Andy then so that we can introduce the agenda, starting with agenda item 1. Andy, please.
Thank you, Chair. Under agenda item number 1, there have not been any appeals against the refusal of inspection of documents. Under item number 2, there's no exempt information on the agenda today. Agenda item number 3, there are no late items. Moving on to item 4, could I ask members if they've got any interest to declare? No. Moving on to agenda item number 5, apologies for absence have been submitted on behalf of Councillors Brooks, Carlisle and Cohen. And we've got Councillors Flint and Smith today as substitutes, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Andy. And could I thank Councillor Flint? I've just been wrote to you two as well, and I can't remember your name. Sorry about that. And Councillor Smith for substituting a short notice. We are, of course, in the holiday period. Moving on then, can I ask us to turn to minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of May, which is on page 9, agenda item 6. Can I go through it in the usual way then, please, starting with page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, and page 15. Is there any matters arising? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Chair. On bottom of page 9 and top of page 10, Chair, I did ask the question about the affordability and the purpose, build student accommodation reports, and it says it is likely to be taken. Is it going to the development plans panel, or is it? Do we have any time scale on it? When will it be going to the development plans panel, Chair?
That might be one for you, David. Sorry.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Khan. I wasn't at the meeting, so I can't recall the conversation, but if it is nice and for DPP, we can put that into the work programme and make sure it's considered. And if Councillor Gruen wanted to.
Yes, at the moment, it's not on the agenda list, but we can definitely put it on. So I'll take it forward from there.
Thank you for that, Councillor Gruen. Any further questions? If not, can we agree the minutes as a true and correct record? Okay, I take that as agreement. Nobody's raised any issues. Moving on then to agenda item 7 on page 17. John, please, can you introduce this?
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, before I pass over, I'll just offer a quick introduction. So the council has a long-held ambition to regenerate the application site, which sits along George Street next to Kirkgate Market and opposite the Victoria Gate development, and provides a link from the city centre to Leeds bus station and to the recently refurbished Leeds Playhouse and new developments at Quarry Hill. The site is currently occupied by a number of vacant low-rise shops. In September 2022, Executive Board agreed a delivery structure for the regeneration of the site, with the council taking the role of developer of a 6-storey, 143-bed hotel complex with commercial units and a council-operated gym on the ground floor, which is being presented as a pre-application this afternoon. Planning permission for a similar scheme on the same site was granted in 2018, but has since expired after progress was hampered by the coronavirus pandemic. A full application is expected to be submitted in July. So I hope that's helpful in setting out a bit of context, and with your permission, Chair, I'll hand over to the applicant.
That's fine, John. Thank you. There's no speakers against. So we can move straight on to questions from members.
No,
sorry.
Need the presentation.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realise there was a presentation. I'm sorry. Yeah. That's the trouble of having two bloody meetings. Good afternoon. Can I welcome you along to the Civic Hall? Please make your presentations when you're ready. We've not got a difficult agenda today, so there might be a bit of leniency sorts of time. We're anxious to find out as much information as we can. And as you speak, could you introduce yourself, please? When you're ready, please begin.
Thank you, Chair. We'll just do a very quick introduction of each other. I'm Jane Walton. I'm Chief Officer for Active Leeds and Operations, which covers Kirkgate Market now.
Tim Waring, Quad. We're the planning advisors to the City Council on this particular application.
There you go. Anthony Hall, CJCT Architects. We were on the original application and continue to work on it. I'm the studio director there.
Thank you for that introduction. Please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to open up with a few very brief remarks on the presentation today and pass over for the main presentation to Anthony, who will talk you through the scheme. I think as already picked up by Mr. Hall, this is a site that has been long-standing in need of regeneration. The regeneration benefits of developing this site are self-evident on the site. This site has had the benefit of a planning consent that has now expired. What we will see today is a scheme where if you squint, you might be able to see the difference between what was previously proposed and accepted by yourselves and what is now proposed. This is an application that we're promoting on behalf of an operator. I can't name the name today, but the City Council are in very advanced discussions and will hopefully be concluding the deal and agreement for lease in the next month before the application is made, when we will be able to have the grand reveal. It is an operator that will ultimately take the site and therefore deliver a scheme. So this is a deliverable scheme, and we are all looking forward to bringing this site forward eventually. It's been long in its tooth. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. The George Street proposals that we're going to go through with you this afternoon are a mixed-use hotel development, including Leeds City Council's gym and commercial spaces at ground floor, and they present a fantastic opportunity to positively enhance the market and to fulfill Leeds' long-term aspiration to create a real thoroughfare on George Street, which has sort of long been blighted by the sort of rather diminutive buildings that existed on the back of the market. So there's a real chance there to do some very positive urban design. The whole process started in 2014 with the design pro forma produced by Mark Burgess and his team, which was ratified by the committee, and that produced a very legible set of ideas that could be followed and developed to enhance the market and the street location. Particular reference in that was to the Leeming House Grade 1 listed building, which is obviously a fantastic facility for Leeds and a tremendous building. And we've taken lots of cues from that as we've developed the design. The hotel itself consists of 143 rooms. It's ground plus 5 floors. As I said, commercial units on the ground floor. And we are sort of retaining and enhancing access through into the market building. So all of the existing market entrances are maintained, and particularly the central one is rather reinforced by the ideas that have come forward in the updated design. So in terms of the design of the building, it's a traditional brickwork design building. It's got a very much a sort of base, middle and top section. At the top, you've got a zinc mansard roof construction. The central body of the building is carefully put together with brick detailing, which I'll go on to a little bit later. And you've got a sort of lighter and elevated sort of first floor and ground floor area, which forms the commercial properties. So you've got recessed brickwork panels, linear brick corbelling and protruding brick headers, forming an architecture that has been designed to sit comfortably and complementary against, the Victoria Gate building opposite. The build, we'll just swing around the building. The south elevation, we carry on the brickwork detailing and keep that very, very sort of tight and elegant around the building. And above the butcher's row, so on the bottom left there is what you'll all be familiar as you walk down Butcher's Row. Currently, it's got a white finished appearance, and we're maintaining that with a glazed brick and new openings for active frontage into Butcher's Row from the internal part of the market. The roof to Butcher's Row will be retained, so it will be very similar, but an enhanced experience from inside. And also within, on the right hand side, the market hall, the large market hall with the space roof. And above that, and sort of rather hidden from view, there's some gantries that do house some air source heat pumps, condensers, etc., for the use of the hotel and the commercial spaces. On the next page, we swing around the gable elevations again, following the sort of the nature of the building, which is it's restrained in nature. It's sort of carefully considered against Leeming House. You come around the corner, there's corbelling and recessed panels, and then a good that the left-hand side elevation, those are open to the market. On the right-hand side, you see the elevation to Leeming House. There's a gap between Leeming House and the market of 5 meters. And we'll show that, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's a sort of a very light gap that's been sort of widely debated and agreed with planning. That was the best response to that. There's a large cast iron sign, which you can just about see on the right-hand side, which will be rehung on the new wall inside, which is a plaque commemorating the opening of Leeming House. Elevationally, we've tried to have as much fun as we can with this in terms of the overall feel and look of it, but it is restrained, and we think it goes very well with Leeming House. You have the main differences on this between the previous application and the new are the fact that it's rather more recessed in the main entrance on the centre to reinforce the market entrance, and that has a canopy above it. And on the next slide, you see the view as you would be heading down George Street. So again, picking up the lines of Leeming House, they're sort of reinforced within the new design, and that road takes you down all the way down to West Yorkshire Playhouse and starts to really create a street back in the centre of Leeds that should be a strong addition to the urban landscape. So that one, in terms of the detailing, we've kept with the detailing from the original application. So in the piers between the windows, you have a 20mm projecting brickwork headers. You'd also have, on a floor by basis, 20mm brick corbelling, and either side of the windows you've got recessed brick panels. And as you'll have seen from the elevations, you have deep reveals around all of the windows. On the right-hand panel there, we're showing the curtain walling, and that's all in a light bronze colour, with a good finish and a fritted glazed elevation on the first and ground floor where appropriate. Carefully sort of designed signage. So the signage and the granite stall risers have both been quite carefully contained. We've taken sort of cues from Victoria Quarter, where that sort of treatment of the shop fronts is in a unified way creates a very homogeneous and quite a classy sort of feel to the whole place. There's aluminium louvers, more glazed curtain walling, and as a granite stall risers at the ground floor. Next panel, please. Okay, moving up through the building, the basement level is a new addition to the scheme, required for plant. So there's various spaces down there for water tanks and M&E kit for the commercial and retail spaces. At the ground floor, the green arrows are the prominent existing entrances to the market. The 4 green shop units are to the left-hand side, and to the right-hand side, the large blue patch on your screen is a proposed Leeds City Council gym, which will have active frontages and be a well-attended facility for Leeds. The hotel entrance is where the red arrow is, just slightly off centre, and as with a lot of hotels in various places around the world, this is you going in and you have a small reception, but the actual physical reception, bars, restaurants and everything are on the first floor above. The areas to the left and right in yellow are there's refuse storage on the right hand side and hotel service entrance. On the left hand side you've got substations, bike stores and the refuse bin store for the commercial units. Next slide please. So first floor, this is where all of the good stuff happens for the hotel. So you've got a large bar, restaurant area, kitchens, all the back of house off the reception. And that can all be managed within that floor plate. On the left-hand side, you're starting to get into the hotel rooms. You've got a mixture of family rooms down there with accessible rooms. And then moving up through the building on a floor-by-floor basis. So second to fourth floors follow the same pattern with double rooms, family rooms, and accessible rooms. Hotel circulation is directly down the middle of the building. Obviously, it's a very long linear building, and we carry that on. Fifth floor, more specialized rooms. So you've got larger plus and large plus rooms. Roof plant is up on the roof. Left-hand side is for the landlords, and the right-hand side is for the commercial and retail units. In terms of section, the building lies on a street that drops about 1.5 meters over the length of the building. So the building is effectively, we've split the building down the center, and the staircase designs have been accommodated to suit that arrangement. Generally, you're on a 3-meter floor to floor on the hotel floors, with a slightly higher floor to floor for the bar and restaurant area. That's 3.8 meters, and between 3.8 meters and 4.5 meters for the commercial spaces below. So this is the squint test that Tim mentioned earlier. So in terms of the proposals, the main things that have sort of changed, I guess, on here are that the slightly awkward last fenestration pattern on the right-hand side has gone from a single to a double window arrangement, which is number 1 on that chart. And the grids have all tightened up slightly to reflect the room sizes that we're now dealing with, rather than the apart hotel that we had before. On the rear elevation, again, the key bits, we've retained the design for Butcher's Row. There are fewer windows on that side, and there's a gantry structure facing onto the roof of the market, not particularly visible from anywhere within the vicinity. On the gables, again, they're very similar. The only real significant differences there's a recessed plant space at the back of the commercial, the 5-meter wide commercial unit, which is item 2 on that panel. And there are a couple of windows less on the left-hand side. In terms of plan, the original plan had a lot of the hotel activity on the ground floor, whereas that ground floor space has been passed over to gym use now. Other than that, it's very similar in nature. Just a bit of a breakdown of the history of the run through of the project there. You know, we are where we are with it, and I think the last page is just returning to the design of the building and how we see it sitting on George Street. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that presentation. Can I now invite members to ask questions? David?
I was surprised you didn't bring this up at presentation, seeing the last application, we spent quite a lot of time talking about the plaque at the back of Laming House. I take it that with this plan, like the previous one, it will be visible.
Yes, the plaque is in the last unit on the ground floor, so it's got a glazed front and a glazed back, and it'll be remounted on the wall in the finished development and be visible from the streetscape and within the unit.
Councillor Groom, please.
This question emanates from the site visit that we had this morning when we were considering the proportions of the building. It's the back facade and how visible that would be from Butchers Row or anywhere. What sort of oblique view of that might you get as a pedestrian? Because we did feel it was rather plain and not particularly attractive, as the back of buildings often aren't.
It's a point that we picked up with officers as part of the pre-app discussions, and we presented the officers with a number of viewpoints from that direction, that looking into the scheme. And I think it's fair to say that the majority of this, there are one or two areas where there are some oblique views, and that information will be submitted with the planning application. We haven't got it today, but it will be submitted with the planning application. I'll pass over maybe just some design comments that Anthony might have.
Yes, certainly, as we alluded to in the presentation there, the look and feel of it from Butchers Row will be very similar to the expired application we did. So you will have the tiling, the white brick at ground floor. You'll have the roof of Butchers Row, and you'll see all the windows above. On the east side, the gantry is hidden. The building steps back at that point by 2.5 meters. And when we've analysed the views, you kind of get the last bit of the brick panel. You don't really see any of the other parts of the elevation from either within the market or where the National Express bus station is.
Thank you. And if I may just ask my second question, just as a matter of interest, and I know this is not particularly to do with the planning application, do we know which hotelier is likely to occupy the hotel?
We do, but we can't tell you. But we hope to be able to tell you when we make the planning application. It's a national operator.
Thank you for that. Any more questions from members, please?
There we go. Thank you. So you mentioned low carbon heating sources, and I wondered if there was any thought of connecting to the district heating network.
It's a coincidence you've just asked that question, because I've just read the sustainability draft report this morning, so I have all the answers. So there has been discussions with your officers regarding connectivity to the district heating network, which, given where the district heating network currently runs, the ability to connect to it today is not possible. Whether that changes in the future, if the district heating network expands beyond its current run, is still to be determined, and therefore, as a consequence, we have to deal with what we've got today. However, we are, as part of the proposals, there are probably 3 key components that we just need to have regard to. First off, dealing with your policies, policy EN1, which deals with the issues of carbon reduction. The intention here is to have a range of mechanisms and measures within the scheme that will reduce carbon through Fabric First, and secondly, the energy requirements that will be generated by the scheme. 87%, I believe, of it will be from renewable energy sources, both primarily on the site, photovoltaics, principally, along with air source heat pumps. And in terms of meeting the building regulations reduction in terms of carbon, there will beat the EN2 policy. Hands down, I think by about 50% more or better. And then finally, in relation to the building operations, we are targeting, and we've undertaken initial BREEAM assessment, and we're showing that we can easily achieve BREEAM Excellent on this scheme.
Yeah, can I just come in on another one on that? In terms of the 87%, so what's the rest coming from?
The rest of the carbon.
You said you were achieving 80%, 87% low carbon heating. Is that right?
Sorry, there'll be in excess of 20% will be from renewable energies, and sorry, the reduction in terms of carbon, which will be drawn from low carbon sources, 87%. The other 13% will be from natural carbon effects.
In terms, but is that from gas, or is that, you know, in terms of the other option?
As I understand it, there is no gas option on this.
No, there's no gas option. I mean, the main drivers, the national hotel operator does provide highly sustainable building projects. Their philosophy is, and you'll have heard this before, be lean, be green, and be clean. And by that, and this ties into your questions, it's sort of a highly insulated building fabric. You've got highly efficient glazing systems. There's reduced air permeability. The clean side of that, it's energy efficient plant and equipment. It's all LED lighting, highly efficient energy heating and cooling, and there's heat recovery systems associated with all of the rooms. And the green part of it, the low or zero carbon, so that's the PV and air source heat pumps. So all those things combined start, you know, get you to that point where you're hitting the percentages that Tim mentioned earlier.
I don't know if I'm just being a bit dense on this one, but it's the 87% figure that you quoted. What does that mean? Does that mean that 87% of the energy into the building will be low carbon? And if that's what you mean, where's the rest coming from is essentially what I'm trying to get at.
I don't know exactly where the remaining 13% are coming from, but they won't be from it won't be low carbon.
Okay.
I can answer that in the planning application.
Yeah,
we can make sure it's covered in the
could. Yeah, I'm intrigued about that missing 13%. Yes, please. Thank you.
If I just make a comment on the same point, I think when the planning application comes back, it would be a good idea just to have an accompanying report on all of those issues that you've raised, Councillor Dye.
Councillor Khan, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. And the design looks really brilliant. I like the design. Can you just run through, you know, because I mean, this morning from the site visit on the traffic, the road, it's very busy because it serves the Leeds market as well and other services within the area. And the drop-offs and pickups, where they're going to be located, and the services, how they're going to get provided that to the development.
Yeah. Okay. Good question. The servicing is obviously off George Street, and as you'll appreciate if you've been there this morning, there are two large lay-bys, and they are used by the markets. Currently, they have a set time in which they can drop off and load. There's currently a TRO in process to extend that dropping off time and extend those spaces. So there's work going on in the background to improve what is there currently. If we could bring up a plan, I could probably explain, if someone could bring up the ground floor plan, I could probably explain where the refuse is. In terms of, yeah. Okay, thanks very much. So in terms of servicing for the hotel, the right-hand side of your screen, where the there's two doors in a yellow section. That goes through to a goods lift and a refuse store. That hotel refuse store has been sized with the hotel operator to their requirements. And bins will be taken out at program time and loaded directly from the loading bays in front. In terms of the refuse management for the commercial spaces, on the left-hand side between units 1 and 2, on the market side inside, there's a refuse store again, which has been sized against the commercial spaces. When that space fills up, and as they do currently in the market, those bins are taken across to the large multi-story car park, which has a large refuse and storage area underneath before they're taken away by the refuse collection. So servicing's all from the front, and there are sort of active measures going forward trying to manage that and improve what's there currently.
Can I ask a question to Highways Officer? Will we be losing some space for parking because around market the trade is already struggling for asking for more spaces for people to park, and then people can go buy their grocery, their daily usage?
I think rather than losing space, I think the spaces are just being reorganised slightly, because the lay-bys they're multifunctional. So some are loading and waiting, time limited waiting. And I think we might be moving some of the time limited waiting to the northern side of the road. But actually on the southern side of the road, I think it's all just loading actually. There isn't any actual, I think that's right, I might have got the wrong way around, but one side of the road is loading during the day and one side, and no waiting apart from taxis. And the other side has some time limited waiting. And I think we're just reorganising it so there shouldn't be any loss of those parking spaces. That's my understanding. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think it'll be really helpful once the application comes back to the plans panel. We can have a clear understanding regarding the parking and the pickups and drops off and also services. My next question is on design actually. Yes, the building it's all red brick. And while we were there this morning, there are some other buildings such as a stone building as well. Is there any chance we can break that up as well? At the moment, it just looks red brick all the way down. So the columns can, or the, something, it reflects the other buildings in the area as well. And this next door building it's going to do. And also landscaping. It was really bare this morning. There was no landscaping. There was no green, no plant, no trees, nothing there. Just a bare road. So is there any plan for landscaping? And then I've got one final question as well.
Okay, thanks for that. In terms of the approach that we've taken to design, that obviously, as you realise, that was developed over a long period with the planning officers, Paul Kendall, and then more recently with John. I think it's important to try and see what what can be best achieved. Brick was chosen as the predominant material. It is well broken up by the glazing fenestration pattern and the way it's stratified up through the building. I appreciate your point. Leeming House is a large sandstone building in effect. And what we tried to do was try to find something that would work as a balance between Leeming House and Victoria Gate, which Victoria Gate, as you appreciate, has got a lot of very, very good brickwork detailing on the building. And it was important to make sure that we could bring something to the game that would actually balance that out. We thought that was best done with brickwork, but we can certainly have a look at those elevations if you think it's something we should return to. Oh, landscaping. Yes, we are looking to put landscaping. It's mainly planters. It's sort of outward opening doors, etc., which are shown on a couple of the visuals. The footpath is wide in places, but it's not overly wide. I'm not sure there's an awful lot of scope for introducing any significant landscaping down there. on either side. What we would prefer to do is try and get that balance right with large planters.
Thank you. Chair, can I come back here?
You have a final question?
Yeah, a final question. This application has come previously as well, and it was approved as well. How confident are you, if the plan has been given, this development will go ahead this time?
As confident as I can be. We are in very advanced discussions, or the City Council are in very advanced discussions with the hotel operator, with an agreement for lease in place, which hopefully will happen next month. The consequence of that is that actually then means that the development can take place, I think is the simple point.
Thank you for those questions, Councillor Khan. Can I bring in Councillor Flint now? Did I see your hand up? Oh, sorry. That's okay then. I thought I had a confusion of hands around there, and I recorded you at the same time. Sorry about that.
What relationship do you have with the market and the hotel with this development as well? And what happens after 5 p.m. when the markets it's closed as well? The footfalls are going to be falling in the area as well. There will be more people in the area. So what relationship do you have with that as well?
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm having to share mics because mine's not working. So as you know, I've just taken over the markets operation and Active Leeds, and we're in discussions between both those services to work out how we get some crossover between those two services, because the gym provision in the city centre, it's the first time we've delivered city centre gym provision. We have done a lot of pop-up animation in the market through Active Leeds. So we've done classes, exercise events, and we're talking about early startup of the gym in the market as a kind of turn up, pay and use equipment and have some training sessions. Kind of aligned to that is an ongoing discussion that we've been having around opening hours at the market. As you well know, it hits 5 o'clock, hits 5 to 5 sometimes, and shutters are already coming down. So we're trying to work through an arrangement with some of the traders to see if we can look at slightly staggered opening times for the market. So that the two things, I'm just bringing together both those services at the minute in dialogue to work out how can we work this differently for the benefit of people that stay in the hotel, staff that work at the market, people that visit the market and use it. We want that footfall and that animation and activation really to cut across both of these facilities for the benefit of our citizens. So it's early days. We're just starting to have those discussions. I've only been in post about, I think it's 4 weeks. So I'm just trying to get my head around everything. But this is a really key opportunity to provide gym facilities in the city centre, which we've never done before.
Thank you for that. Can I bring in Councillor Anderson now, please?
A lot of what I was going to cover, actually, Councillor Khan has covered probably for the same reasons, but the market is going to expand with the new containers going down the bottom. Have you any concerns in terms of the potential conflicts that you'll have in terms of a relatively good, if not an excellent quality hotel, mixing in with people coming and going, and the potential issues over that? Not that I'm against either, by the way, I'm just saying. And also, what consultations have you got planned with the market traders to make sure that they're being taken along with us? Because as someone who has led on the market in the past, the phrase gentrification of the market is thrown back at us on a number of occasions. And there is no doubt that this is going to shift the area up a notch or two, isn't it? That's the whole point of what you're doing. So we need to make sure the traders are coming with us. So what plans have you got to consult with them? And then more on the highway side of things, the conflicts. If people are needing to drop off, and also you're needing traders to unload, and you're needing potential service vehicles coming earlier than expected, because sometimes these vehicles have travelled all night, they suddenly arrive outside and you've got to try and manage it. And so would that where would that responsibility for managing the space outside? Would the hotel be responsible for managing it? Would the council be responsible for managing it? Because I don't necessarily have confidence that the council's parking services people will necessarily handle the issues as well as they should do. And the other thing is people with a disability. I accept that there are a number of car parks nearby where disabled people could park, but some people need to get access to their vehicle almost immediately. They cannot necessarily walk that far, particularly if they're blue badge holders. You know, so how are we going to deal with those types of things? And the rest, I would concur that when it comes back again, comments like there are waiting and restrictions on George Street which will allow for pick up and drop off. We need far greater words than that so that we can probe, because we've got too many examples of when things suddenly are introduced that they're even worse than our highways people anticipated. And let's get it right first time. That's what I'm saying, because we want this to be a marquee building and development, because if we get it wrong, we'll get absolutely pilloried for it. So I don't care who answers the questions, but some of them have been specifically to Jane, because I know of her new responsibilities.
I think there were 4 questions there that I got down. Jane, I'll pass the really difficult ones to Jane.
I thought you might do it. So just in terms of the container village, or whatever we want to call it, we've gone out for expressions of interest for that, and have had 6 returns that we are looking through at the moment, which hopefully will lead us into us entering into an agreement with one of those providers, and they will obviously bring forward the details of the submissions and the design of that facility. I think that will be a really positive move within the market. It's an area of the market, it's actually a fair distance away from where the hotel is, but I'm hopeful that through careful management, through monitoring of the activity there, they will be mutually beneficial to each other as opposed to counter intuitive. So, but we will be obviously in dialogue with the operator to make sure that there's some synergy between the offers. But as I say, it's early days at the moment. So when we've got to the point where we've got an approved supplier, then we'll have those discussions. But I know your comments, and I wouldn't want to introduce something that creates tension as opposed to something that adds benefit. In terms of the consultation, we are planning to put up some boards within the market about the hotel development and start to engage with the traders directly. So there will be, as part of the planning submission, a consultation requirement, and we see the market as the ideal location for that. But we are going to do some upfront consultation in the market and put some boards within there so people are aware of what's coming. I mean, just even in conversations, we've had approaches around the gym provision in the hotel, people looking for corporate access through the Leeds card. So I think it's seen as a really positive thing. And the more we can get the message out that this is coming and it's beneficial to all of the facilities around there, the Corn Exchange itself, and you know, the Leeds City College just on the doorstep and the playhouse, it's starting to really become a vibrant area of the city centre, which has been neglected for quite a long time. So shall I pass over to you on the highways and accessibility? Although Lisa might have some comments. Yeah.
I thought I was going to pass over the difficult ones to you.
Yeah.
In terms of the conflicts that may arise in relation to the parking outside and the drop off, I mean, those are matters that are being dealt with through the TRO, and I appreciate as it stands here, you've got scant detail, and obviously it's a TRO that's being promoted by the council. I think hopefully Lisa can provide a little bit more information on that, but I think, you know, what we'd say is that we are seeking to ensure that this is a managed approach, and we ensure that all operators have access. In terms of disabled access and disabled parking, it's a city centre location. The opportunity for providing on-site on this postage stamp of a size site is very difficult, obviously, as with many city centre sites. There is plentiful parking in close proximity to the site. I appreciate those are in third-party ownerships, but there is on-site parking, on-street parking. Disability, I don't know whether the council have intentions in the future, perhaps to look at disabled parking provisions specifically on George Street, but I'm sure that is something that perhaps could be looked at. But I'll pass over to Lisa, who hopefully can answer on the specifics.
Parks their car in one of the surrounding car parks, they've got to find a way of getting their luggage, whatever it is, there, plus themselves, plus any other aid that they may or may not need. And that is bad enough for an able-bodied person trying to take all their luggage and get the family and that with them, never mind. So that's where I'm coming from. It's not that I'm any problems with the development, it's how so we are disabled friendly in this hotel. That's where I'm coming from.
First of all, there are some disabled bays, I believe, at the top of George Street. So on street, but they're not, generally for overnight parking. In terms of that issue about if someone's disabled and needs help from their car, I don't know whether hotels offer that kind of assistance. I don't know if that's an option to consider. Like you get special assistance on trains and planes, etc. It might be something that the council can discuss with the operator potentially as something to look at. But in terms of management of the on-street, it is, it's a public highway. There will be the TROs that we think are appropriate in place, but it is quite a busy street and but it's dynamic. There's not a lot of cars parked blocking spaces for any length of time, but for visitors, for shopping, there's also the short stay multi-store car park right next door. So I think it is, with the best will in the world, you cannot completely prevent sort of, it's basically irresponsible or inconsiderate behaviour of drivers either. But, I think we're aiming to get the best TRO arrangement that we can to serve all users of that street, so the markets, the hotel, and other businesses around. And it is something we will monitor as well to see have we got this right or does it need to be altered.
Thank you, Lisa. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. I may slip into comments. Can I ask one, the rooftop plant, can we have a guarantee that the plant will not stick up above the roof line? I only ask that because on Artist Impressions, we never see the air conditioning units. We only ever see them when they're on. And we need to make sure they don't actually poke out above what is the notional roof line. Can we just go to the gable end that faces onto the outdoor market? If we can come up with if we can come up with the drawing. That's the one. I have to say that gable end will be visible. I know we talk about, oh, you'll only be able to see it from, but actually that's the end that you'll be able to see from everywhere. And quite frankly, it's pretty uninspired from my point of view. So when the plans come back, it really has to be much better than that, much better. The other one that faces onto the old market building is less of an issue because it's actually, you won't be able to see it, quite frankly. Okay. I have to say that, you asked us, can we spot the difference between the planning application we gave permission for and this one? I actually preferred the original. I thought the proportions at ground level are much better. The ground floor and the space over is a much better proportion, in my opinion. than what you're proposing, where it seems somewhat squashed down. And I would ask therefore that you go away and look at that again and see if we can tweak it a bit, because I think it detracts from that frontage. On a personal view, I'm relaxed about the brickwork. I think there is potentially a lot of detailing, if my memory of the original application's correct, which will break that up. I would agree to some extent with Councillor Carney in relation to landscaping. And that's probably linked to the car parking and the servicing and the pick up and drop off and everything. Because standing there this morning with cars whipping about all over the place and stopping on double yellow lines and people doing various things, it's a pretty unpleasant atmosphere, quite frankly. And I think this is the opportunity to actually make that route down towards the bus station. And in fact, it's also the route the other way up into the city centre, a more pleasant experience. And I'd be much more robust, if that's the word, in relation to inappropriate parking. I think I wouldn't want to see a notional window box along the front. I think that's a complete waste of time and effort. But certainly, I'd be quite happy for us to have some trees planted down there, and that might be in the pavement or in a container. And I'm quite happy, and I know this is heresy for some people, but I'm quite happy to lose a couple of car parking spaces if that's what required, because it's all about lifting that atmosphere. And at the moment, it's pretty unpleasant. If we lift it up a bit, because the whole idea on the original application was to get life back down there, not people who are scurrying down to the bus station, but actually to make it part of that larger city centre destination. Which brings me on to the gym and Butcher's Row. The original application for the apart hotel envisaged that the space underneath the hotel, which went out onto Butcher's Row, would be much more of a communal space and a destination space, which would allow you also to walk through in like a semicircle. I think that if you put the gym in that location, then you can't achieve that link through towards the market. And there was an aspiration that some of the ones on the opposite side of Butcher's Row, those units would come into use more as the street food element. You're going to lose that. And I think I know that and the gym itself will not be a through. You'll be able to stand at one side and watch people on bikes and stand on the other side and watch people on bikes, but not a very pleasant experience. But I think if you're going to have a gym, and I see no reason why you shouldn't have a gym, I would put the gym, if it was me, in the bottom unit down towards the market, the open market, because that's at the moment, as we saw today, dead space, quite frankly. Somebody talked about staggered opening hours at the market. I wish you joy of that. We've been talking about it for 40 years. If you can get the market traders to stay beyond 4 o'clock, you're doing really well. And I think this is a comment, a personal view. Part of the issue, I think, is that we're pulled between the traditional market, or the old-fashioned view of the market, and the modern view of the market. And I think if you look at the market now, you will see there's a slow and inexorable movement away from selling second-hand VHS tips into a more vibrant, more food-orientated atmosphere, because a lot of the traditional stuff is now sold much cheaper by Aldi. As I say, I'm relaxed about the parking. I know we keep mentioning the issue about disabled parking. And I think if you put disabled bays in, that's fine. But I don't think we could create a 24-hour disabled space on that street on the off chance that somebody might want to be in the apart hotel, because it would create, I'm not sure actually whether there's any legal basis for it. But certainly there are some disabled bays there. And if the ones at the top, they were full when we were there this morning. So, including that lady in the large Range Rover, who appeared to be quite healthy to me, but there we are. I've slipped into comments there, Chair.
You have, but good issues. Is there any quick response, or do you want to take those issues on board when it comes back?
I'll pick up on one or two of them, Chair. Certainly the opening hours, I'm ready for the bruises that may follow. So we'll see how we get on. Just in terms of the street trees, as you know, landscape's a real passion of mine, and we've done a lot of work in the city centre to try and introduce as many street trees as possible. And it's a question I asked when Councillor Khan asked the question earlier. So we'll look at the potential, the art of the possible for street trees, but 9 times out of 10 that's dictated by what's under the ground, and we don't know what utilities are there as yet. But you know, trees in planters I'm less convinced by. They never last as long. They do struggle, and it is a stressful environment for them, but we'll see where we get to and we'll explore that as an option. And I think the gym location, just picking up on that comment, I think it's about the size of the footprint that we need to be able to operate the number of stations, hence it's located where it is. So the business case for the gym equipment, which we hire, and the staff that will operate out of Active Leeds, all of that's predicated on a 60 station gym, which is what we think is appropriate for the size and the demand in that area. So actually compressing it onto a smaller part of the building will be really challenging for us to make that work.
Can I just come back at that, Chair, because it perennially disappoints me that our first response is always to say we can find a reason for not doing this. Let's use street trees as an example. I happen to be, for my sins, I happen to be looking at the Hackney Council website at lunchtime. Hackney Council have planted in the last year 15,000 street trees. That's trees in the footway within effectively paved areas. Now, if they can do that quite easily, and they have a regime in place, the interesting bit of the regime is, and you talk about street trees don't survive or trees in planters don't survive, they have in place a procedure to water them. Now, trees in planters survive really well if you give them a drink. Trees that you plant in the street or in the park or anywhere else grow if you give them a drink. So it is not difficult to plant trees in the street. What seems to be difficult for Leeds is keeping them alive, and that relates to our inability to water them. Now, it would seem to me that if this is a prestigious hotel that we're all hoping for, they may be persuaded to send one of their staff out every morning with a watering can. So I think the solution is really quite easy to deal with if you've got the will. If you've got the will to do it. At the moment, best will in the world to you, but certainly in highways there isn't the will to plant street trees, and I'm disappointed about that.
Thank you for that, Colin. I'm sure we'll talk more about that when it comes back to us. Councillor Groom, please, if you're coming in on the same issue.
Just to add to what you've said, Councillor Campbell, I agree with you on the green issues. It's actually our duty as a city to put as much greenery in every possible development that we can. And where it's in a hard paved or surfaced area, that duty is no less present. So I do think it's an absolute priority. It's part of the climate change agenda, and it's part of making Leeds a greener city. And as you know, Leeds doesn't have sufficient tree canopy as yet in comparison to other main cities. So we have to make it our business. And incidentally, I was out with a highways officer yesterday in my ward who was trying to sell the idea of planting trees in the middle of a paved area. And it was actually the shops in front of which this was going to be done that were objecting. So I won't blame highways entirely for that. But I do think it's very important. And in the absence of our old friend, Alderman Nash, could I encourage a suitable level of research to go on before to make sure that they are the right species in the right conditions and they will actually grow if watered. But I do think green is very important.
Thank you, Caroline. I think that message has been communicated and hopefully understood. We do need some greenery around there. And Jane, the very best of luck with consultation with the market residents. Many around this table has sat on that board for many, many years, and Councillor Khan has chaired it. So we have a good understanding of the principle, but it's something that members have been desirous to achieve for many, many, many years. So all I can say at this stage is good luck to you on that one. Can I bring in Councillor Smith, please?
Thank you, Chair. Many of my questions have been asked, but there's just a couple. So the rear of the hotel will effectively be inside the market hall. Has any thought been given to additional noise prevention levels on those walls? Because obviously the market starts very, very early in the morning, and I'm quite sure that some of the revellers will probably only just be going to bed. So they'll want to get some good rest. And in terms of the seeming inability to green the area, Councillor Campbell has just highlighted a wall that doesn't look particularly thrilling. Could that be turned into a green wall, perhaps?
Is it something you wish to consider, or do you want a quick response on that? We have achieved green walls around the city on many locations. Former Councillor Walshaw was very keen on that at one time. And of course, there is a difficulty in keeping it alive, but it can be achieved.
Yeah, thanks for the question. In terms of the acoustic separation, yes, we have an acoustician on board on the project. There's a good degree of separation within the design anyway. At first floor level, you have the restaurant bar areas in the back of house. So there's some separation there. There aren't any rooms directly on the back of the lower hall there, apart from at the gable. So we don't really foresee that there will be any significant issue there. In terms of the green wall, I think that, these sort of installations can be very attractive and can work well. I think it's something that we could look at and consider for the project. Thank you for the suggestion. Can I just come back to Councillor Campbell's comments on a couple of things, if we've got time? So there's no condenser units on the roof of any type. There are some PVs, and they're hidden by the projecting rake of the mansard roof on the front. So you won't see anything above the roof line that's of a plant nature. Yeah. I think that was it, wasn't it? You had a lot of questions there, but I think that was the main ones. I think we've covered everything else. Yes, the proportions at first floor. So that has been slightly amended since the original design, in part because the the first floor bar and restaurant requires a higher floor to ceiling on the right-hand side, which affects the way that you can step the building. But proportionally, it's actually very, very similar. It might be the way that we've illustrated the drawings, but we'll look to make sure that illustrates properly. There are quite generous windows to all of the rooms at first floor on the left-hand side, the ones you're talking about, and then again through on the right-hand side. And you're right as well, sorry, on your point about the whole way that the project was originally viewed in the original application. There was this idea that you might be able to keep Butcher's Row open till, say, 8 o'clock at night, and you would have one of the gates open, the main central gate in the middle, and a gate in the Leeming House end, and that would create a sort of walk around. I think there's still options there. The block houses, they're up for redevelopment. There's been a lot of work been going on there. So that side of the arcade will be enhanced and improved. So I think you're going to have the gym and the activities on the right hand side, and then I think you've still got plenty of scope to make sure that Butcher's Row is, you know, quite a vibrant space that works, you know, both for the market and visitors. Thank you.
So, okay, Councillor Smith.
Just pop back in, sorry, Chair. In terms of the green wall, I know you were all poo-pooing me. They don't typically work because they aren't watered enough. Whereas it's on a roof, and Leeds, God love it, is quite a wet city. So we could quite simply put a tank up there to gather the rainwater, and then it would just trickle down and water itself.
Thank you for that suggestion. It'd be on the roof, I'm afraid, Colin, if that happened. But it'd be only small, I guess. David, you wanted to come back in? You not bothered? I think that's exhausted all the questions and comments. Can I therefore say, can we move on to the set questions for us on page 29? First one is, do members consider that the proposed use of the site is acceptable in principle? Surely that's a big yes. Yep. Do members consider that the proposed mass and form of the development and its relationship with the surrounding context is acceptable? Yeah, I think comments have been made regarding the gable end, but I think generally yes. Is it? Yes. Okay. Well, that concludes this meeting. Sorry. I know there's another question, but I was listening very carefully to the debate, and I don't think it's relevant, quite frankly. You do want to come back, and there's lots of questions and comments that's been made by members, which can only be answered when it comes back. So I wasn't going to put that to you, if that's all right. I will put it if you want to, but I'm sure I know what the answer is in advance.
That's fine. I just had to, I did have concerns that, for example, we need to get classification. I'm trying. Honestly, I am trying my little digits working overtime here. But yeah, I do have concerns that some of it needs to be brought back again. And it will also be interesting when Jane can feed back what the views of the market traders are, because knowing them the way I do, I don't think it'll be a total yes to begin with, put it that way.
Yeah, just a second, Councillor Anderson, as a former and a previous chair for the Leeds Kirkgate Market, and there are some other members who have sat on the board of the Leeds Kirkgate Market. Yes, yes, definitely. The last question on the consultation, we definitely need to know the consultation, highways, landscaping, those are important as well. And I think it'll be like a dream comes true once this development is been developed, and bring the life back into that area. So yes.
Yeah, we'll set you loose on the Councillor Khan. I think the two main questions that needs to be answered has been answered. Obviously, members have made some valuable comments for suggestions how to improve it, and I'm sure when it comes back, we will hear more of those proposals, the ones that's possible and the ones that's not. But in general, I think it's been a good discussion, and hopefully it's been helpful to you to come forward with the next report. Okay. With that, can I thank you all for your attendance, and may I close the meeting? Thank you.